All right, welcome back. So this is another code.org complex sprite movement challenge activity. And this one happens to be jumping. So we have this alien that we're going to have jumping in the air, and they want us to do something else with this too. But it says, can you use the counter pattern with the velocity y to make the character appear to be jumping? So basically, we just want to alter the velocity of this character, whether we're pressing the sprite or not, or pressing a key. So let's say we press the space bar and we want it to move up, and then when we let go of the space bar, it's going to move back down. Okay? And then also there's a bonus challenge that says add a sprite that moves across the screen, and we'll do that last. But the first thing is we need to have this character moving up and down. So let's hit run, see what happens. So it's just sitting here moving. Okay? Or not, it's just kind of sitting there. So now what we need it to do is we're going to go ahead and let's first have where we press the space bar, it's going to jump up in the air. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to control. We'll use an if. And then we're going to go to world, and we'll say that if it's key down, we don't want to use up, although we could. I'm going to use space. Okay, and then what we want to do is alter the velocity for this character. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab over here sprite. Now, if we want the velocity to go up, we're going to want to make it decrease the y. Okay, so we want that to be a negative number. Okay, so let's go ahead and add alien here, and let's make that -8. Now, when we do this, right now when I hit the space bar, it's just going to keep going up and up and up. So now what we want to do is we want to set a situation where if the y gets a little bit too high up here, we're going to change the velocity. And we can actually have it then slow down, because you can kind of see it slowly doesn't just stop, and then it's going to eventually go back down. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to drag another if out here. And let's say, because it's this way, so when that number gets less than a certain number, we'll say like 150 here, then we want the velocity to change and have it go, instead of negative, or we want it to eventually go to positive. So we're going to go ahead and drag out a math. Maybe, there we go, there's less than. And we want to say the alien's y is less than 150. So when it reaches up in this area here, then we want the velocity to change for us. So now we're going to go to sprite, and we're going to take this velocity for alien, and we want to take the previous velocity and then change it each time, and it's going to change very quickly, obviously, once it gets above 150. But we're going to add so that this eventually becomes a positive number. And we'll just add 1 to it. And we can try that if when we need to add more, we can do that as well. All right, let's go ahead and reset that and run it. We hit space bar, and then eventually, yep, there we go. Now, the other issue we have is now we don't want it to go past this, right? Because it stops here. So we need another if. And what we want to do with that if is very similar to this, but instead of less than, we're going to do greater than. And this is going to be the alien y. And let's try 300. And then we want it to stop at that spot. So we're going to go ahead and set its actual y location to that. And then we want to set its velocity to 0. Okay, let's try that. That did not work. So we need to set the alien Y to 300. Interesting. Oh, that's not good. There we go. Let's put that outside of that. There we go. So I had a nested if going on there. Goodness. We'll try that. Now, it looks like I might be a little bit too far above the ground, so let's make this 310. There we go. That's perfect. And I believe they actually give you some hints for that too. Set the alien velocity, reset its starting Y location. Okay, so now we're going to do the bonus. I just kind of stack these up here. So these are kind of done. And now we just need this bonus. Okay, so now we're going to add a sprite that moves across the screen in a loop to give the alien something to jump over. It doesn't say anything about what happens if it hits it. So we just need to create a character. Let's see if animation, we don't have one here. So let's go ahead and create one. I'm just going to use like a snail. I think this one looks kind of cool. Okay, so then we go back to code. And then we want to, don't want to drag it out there though. So we'll drag it here. And we'll give it a, let's, we want it to be off the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and do like 420 and then 330. Then we want to set that animation. This could be anything you want it to be. I like the snail. I think it's kind of cool looking. And then we're going to set the X velocity for this character. Okay, let's run that first. Okay, so there's our snail moving across the screen. That's pretty good. Okay, so now the problem is we need to now create a loop. So we need to go down in the loop here and say that when its X gets over here too far, we're going to set its X to be over this direction back to 420. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drag out a control and use an if. And we're going to say if it's less than, is less than 20 or less than negative 20, because then that will be off the screen. It will be disappeared. Then we're going to set its location back to what we originally started with, which was 420. It just needs to be off the screen. And you could change this a little bit too. I just want it off the screen completely. There you go. And that's how you make that work. Now we don't have it set up for anything that if it touches it, which that you could totally do that. I don't. They don't have anything in place for here, so you can't really do that right now. But Anyways, that's how you make this character. So you can jump over the whatever character you want. I just chose the snail. It works really well across the bottom of the screen. And hope this helps you with your coding. Good luck.